Hey everyone, and welcome to part 2 of the Global Talent Stream Form Guide. We're going to go through the next few sections that go over the job details of the position that you're hiring for. So starting here in section 5, what they're asking for first is the job title and suggested NOC code. And I'm going to go into a whole different video on how to figure out the NOC code. But if you're under category B, as you know, one of the 13 occupations, each of them has an NOC code. And you can see based on the title, whether it's a software developer, engineer, info systems manager, things like that, they each have their own NOC code. So you're going to want to put in the one here that fits exactly what they're doing the closest. And then obviously include the job title you're hiring them under. The next question is, how many temporary foreign workers, TFWs, are you requesting for this job offer and position? So keep in mind that when you're applying under the Global Talent Stream, you can actually apply for multiple temporary foreign workers at the same time. Now I'm going to go into this in a whole separate video on how to apply for multiple TFWs at the same time, because it also can include some extra forms or information that you're going to need. If you're hiring for the same NOC code and the same duties, as we're going to get to here in just a second, and the same wage, then what you can do is you can fill it out here for more than one. So it could be 2, 3, 4. But keep in mind, if you're hiring for someone with a different wage, so they're not making the exact same amount, you're going to have to treat them separately, and I'm going to cover that in a separate video. So we'll just assume that you're just hiring one person for now, or 2 or 3 that are all making the same amount of money. So you'll fill out the number there, and then you're going to fill out the main duties of the job. And you're only given a certain amount of space here to fill this part out. So you want to keep it pretty brief. I typically like to write 3 to 5 bullet points on exactly what the employee is going to be doing. And it's best to have that written up by, say, their direct superior or someone in whether it be the CTO or VP of engineering, someone who knows exactly what they will be doing and can summarize it well. The expected employment start date. So what I usually do is I put this at least a month in advance, and the reason why is because once you apply, it's going to take on average about 10 days to get your Global Talent Stream application approved, and then it's going to take on average about 2 weeks to get their work permit approved, and then obviously they're going to need some time to move to your office or to Canada or to wherever, and this is going to take typically at least a month. So I prefer to put it at least a month out from the date that you're applying on. As well, you may have an employee that won't be coming for a few months, in which case you can put that date maybe a few months in advance. Expected employment duration is typically 2 years, because that's the longest you can get it for. Now obviously if they won't be working for you for 2 years, then don't put 2 years. But if you're looking for the maximum of 2 years, then make sure to put it there. And keep in mind, you're going to have to explain the rationale for whatever amount of time that you're asking for. So if you ask for 2 years, the ESDC wants to know exactly why and what the employee will be doing. And I've had it happen where companies don't fill this out very well, and the ESDC will come back and say, well, we need more specifics of what they'll be doing. And examples of this could be maybe certain contracts you have with clients that are ongoing for 2+ years, or certain projects that the TFW will be working on that will last for 2 years or more, or that they'll need to maintain for 2 years or more. So for example, you could say, we're working on a big project for a client with a contract that goes through for the next 2 years, or this employee will be working on a project that will take 6 months to deliver, and then we will require him to stay on board to maintain the project, fix bugs, and things like that. So any explanation you can give on what they'll be doing to cover the 2 years will help. The next few questions are pretty straightforward. Is the position part of a union, yes or no? And then the language requirements stated in the offer of employment. So if you're expecting the worker to have to communicate orally and or in writing in English or French, make sure to check it off. And I highly advise you to include that in the offer of employment, because a lot of companies do not have that included in their employment agreements. So that's just a quick little change you can include, and you will likely be asked this if you don't check the languages to make sure. Next is the minimum requirements. So starting with education, do you require a bachelor's degree, a master's, a PhD, nothing, or anything like that? You'll include it here in any additional information. As well, minimum experience or skills. So for example, 3 years of experience working with this technology or working under this type of arrangement, or whatever it may be, 5 years, 3 years, include that there. You can take that from, if you've been recruiting on sites like Indeed or LinkedIn or whatever, you can include whatever you listed there as the requirements here. And then it asks, have you tried to recruit Canadians or PRs, permanent residents, prior to submitting your application? Now, this is not required per se through the Global Talent Stream. In the old Labor Market Impact Assessment, LMIA, it was a requirement that you had to try recruiting within Canada for at least a month. For the Global Talent Stream, it's not a requirement, but if you have tried to recruit, it's definitely, well, you obviously want to be honest, but click yes and explain your recruitment efforts. That'll definitely help showing that you have been trying within Canada. So for example, you could say, we've been posting jobs on Indeed for the last X amount of months, or you could say we've been using these recruitment companies, et cetera, et cetera. Were any employees working in the position laid off in the last 12 months? So again, you're just going to have to be honest here based on what happened in your company. Did you lay off any employees? And if so, were they Canadians or PRs, or were they TFWs, temporary foreign workers? And then the reasons for the layoffs. And that's obviously just going to depend on your company that you'll have to fill that out. And then it asks, will the hiring of the temporary foreign worker lead to job losses or a reduction in work hours due to layoffs now or in the future? Read this question carefully, but basically asking if this will have a negative effect on Canadians or PRs within your company. Just be honest, what I tend to see with most companies is they need to hire to continue growing and actually be able to hire more Canadians and PRs down the road. So be honest here. If you simply cannot find anyone with those experiences and skills, it's easy to say no, and you know that it'll be continuing to grow your company and provide actually even more work for Canadians and PRs. If it will be, then definitely click yes and explain what the impact of hiring the temporary foreign worker would have on your workforce and the Canadian workforce in general. Section 6 focuses on compensation and benefits, and this is really important because there are wage requirements for the Global Talent Stream. So the first question is, what is the wage range for employees working in this occupation at this work location? So wherever you're hiring this worker to work out of, and whichever occupation they fall under, you want to find all of the current employees under that occupation at the office and provide the range of what they're making. So if you're hiring a software developer for your Ottawa office, you need to take a look at all your software developers within your Ottawa office and provide the lowest wage you're paying them and the highest wage per hour. So you're going to have to convert, if it's a salary, convert it to per hour. Or if you don't have any, then check there are no employees currently working in this occupation. And then the little note here, the wage range should be from the last 2 pay periods that have occurred within the 6 weeks prior. So keep that in mind. It then asks, is the job offer for full-time employment, so at least 30 hours, covered by the LMIA? That's a simple yes or no, depending on how long you're hiring them for, or for what type of job. And then how many hours will they be working each day? How many hours each week or month? You just choose one of the two here. You don't have to fill out both. And then it's asking for the non-overtime wage hourly that you're offering to the TFW. Now, the reason this is all very important and included is because there is a wage minimum requirement. So, and I will provide a link to this in the description. There's a minimum requirement. It's called the median wage that you have to pay any temporary foreign worker. And it's the higher number of either the lowest amount you're paying current employees or the median wage as stipulated by the ESDC. So the ESDC has populated a chart that says this is the amount you have to pay it's by occupation and by region. So if you're hiring a software developer under the NOC code 2173, you have to go under that chart and see in which region you're hiring them in, and they'll show you a minimum. You have to meet that minimum. Now, if the lowest amount you're paying current employees is higher, then you have to meet that wage. So you're, in many cases, going to have to meet the low wage that you're paying current employees at your company, because they want to make sure that you're not hiring temporary foreign workers and paying them well below market rate. So keep in mind, if you're hiring them on a salary, you're going to have to convert that to hourly as well to fill that out here. If it is salary, you may not have overtime, but if there is overtime, you're going to want to put that information in here. If not, you can simply write NA. And then it asks if you converted the wage from a monthly or yearly salary or a currency other than Canadian dollars. So if yes, explain. Typically, most companies I work with hire on a salary, so I'll click yes and say, yes, this was converted from a yearly salary of X, whether it be 80,000, 100,000, whatever it is. Then you're going to check off the benefits, so what your company provides as benefits, whichever apply, or if neither of these four apply, then you can explain in further detail below. And then lastly, the vacation days down here. Could be 10, could be 20, again, depends on your company and the remuneration if they've been given a portion of their salary for that. So that's the end of part 2 of my video series on how to fill out the form. And in the last part, part 3, I'm going to go over the last few sections, including the LMBP and how to fill that out. So thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.